Hi everyone, my name is Laura and I'm a new business development director at EyeSee. Today I will be telling you everything you need to know about in-context social media testing. I think we can all agree that social commerce and online marketing, social media marketing has become a business critical operation. There's not just e-commerce that's really driving this, but there's also just the sheer impact that social media has these days. If you look at the numbers, for instance, there's 97% of Gen Z that's using social media as a top source of shopping inspiration. You've probably all seen some articles like this one that says that a lot of brands, they all of a sudden sell out just because a video has gone viral on TikTok. For example, this Maybelline mascara. And these are sometimes products that have been on shelves for years. So it's not like it's a new product, but just because of one video, it can go completely viral. What we also know with these short format based apps is that our attention spans are getting shorter. For instance, we spend on average 2.5 seconds browsing a post on Facebook, and that is on your desktop. On mobile, that's even shorter. And that's very short, but we know in general, if we compare this with a physical store, it takes 7 seconds for a brand, for instance, to grab your attention and keep your attention. So it wasn't long, but 2.5 seconds, that's really next level. So the digital arena is very cutthroat. And because of this, we have brands that are more and more looking for innovative data to really help them increase the impact of their ads, because their ads just have to work so much harder to stand out. And what they have today, so there's a number of solutions in the market today that are very often used for social media testing. We have live analytics that are provided via the social media platforms. Besides that, there's also other social media tools in the market that will do a lot of analyses. And then, of course, there's the more traditional methods like surveys and focus groups. And while those are great methods, they have some gaps. And that is why brands keep looking for other innovative tools to help them. To give you an overview of those key gaps, so first of all, especially when we look at live analytics, we're missing the why behind it. You can see the clicks and the views and the likes, but you don't necessarily know why a post is more successful than another one. Then second, you are running a little bit of a reputation risk by going live immediately, and an opportunity cost, because let's assume you go live with a post that actually is not as impactful, and you're reaching 100,000 people with that. That is an opportunity cost, and perhaps also even, a real reputation risk. Third, you don't know whether consumers are connecting with your brand, which is something that's very important when you're looking at advertisements. And that's hard for you to know just from live analytics or from surveys. Besides that, the granularity. So you don't know necessarily which parts of your ad are seen and are not seen. And if there is an emotional connection, for instance, you don't know what it is that is actually evoking that emotional connection. Is it the protagonist? Is it perhaps your brand cue? You don't know necessarily what they see. Then there's also no direct relationship with in-store purchase behavior, because these days we've all heard about the term omni-channel. We know that sometimes people will look at something online and then they go to a store to buy it from the shelf, but you don't know to which extent what they saw online, whether they saw your post, if that's actually going to lead to more sales when they're in front of a shelf. And then lastly, a lot of these, especially if we're looking at surveys and focus groups, these methods are based on stated intent, on what people claim they do and think. But in reality, we know that what they claim they do can be in sharp contrast with what they actually do. Last but not least, these methods don't necessarily provide strategic insights across all social media channels, but also across your full marketing mix. For instance, TVC, and then your other digital banners and print and perhaps out of home. And so that is why brands keep looking for innovative data. And that is also where we're playing with EyeSee. And just wanted to take a brief moment to introduce EyeSee. So we're a market research company that, by using a mix of behavioral and traditional methods, strives to make the tech-enabled behavioral insights accessible. And the reason that we advocate for a combination is very simple, because different methods uncover different aspects of consumer behavior. And the only real way to get a full picture is by mixing them, because it significantly increases the predictive power of the insights, and it allows us to empower our clients in their decision making, whether that's advertising or shopper or innovation or e-commerce, with complete confidence, because that at the end of the day is what we want for our clients, that they can make an investment in an ad and know that the ad is going to be successful. We run these behavioral studies from 7 offices worldwide, and we've done studies in over 40 markets. And doing these studies has inspired us to create our own CMS system. And this is what I'll be talking about for the rest of this presentation today, is CMS. So I'll tell you first what it stands for and why it's valuable. I'll show you in a nutshell how it works, and I'll also show you what you can uncover. So I will share with you a couple of example insights. So CMS stands for Content Management System. And basically it is a system that allows us to replicate social media channels and also websites actually, but we're talking about social media today. And you can see some examples here on these videos. So they look exactly like the real deal, but they are an experimental environment. And we have created these environments for all the main channels. So Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and then more recently also Snapchat and TikTok. And with these environments, you can test the impact of any format of content or ad. So the reason that we created a CMS system is to have a realistic environment, because the more realistic it is, the higher quality of the insights we'll have. And beyond having that realistic environment, you also have full control over the ads that we put in there, the audience that we're going to use for the study, so that at the end of the day, any tiny change that you make in your ad, we know that the change that we see in consumer behavior is coming directly from the change you made in your ad. And so what can we do in our CMS environment, and how does this actually fill the gaps that I mentioned earlier? Well, so first of all, we have that realistic environment, but we also use different methods in those environments. So for instance, we use surveys, and survey is something that allows us to cover that gap of the why behind it, because beyond being able to do what you can do, for instance, with live tracking, like we see the clicks, the likes, the views, we will also understand the why behind it because we combine that with surveys. The reputation risk and the opportunity cost is covered just by the fact that we have that experimental environment and you're not just going live with it immediately. We also understand whether consumers engage with your brand because we're using a method that's called facial coding. So we are able to measure whether there's any facial expressions, and if so, which kind of expressions that is. And that helps us understand how strong is the emotional connection with your ad. We can also tell you a bit more about granularity. So we can't, beyond seeing the emotional connection, we can also tell you second by second what they are looking at the ad, because we are using eye tracking. So if we see an emotional expression like happiness or surprise, we can tell you exactly what they were looking at in that moment and what evokes that emotional connection. Further, we have the ability to add a virtual shopping exercise to the study. So after they've been exposed to your ad, we can expose them to a shelf in store, and we can see if they're actually going to buy more from shelf compared to a group of respondents that has not seen the ad, for instance. So that is a way for us to really tell you more about the return on investment of your ad. Then finally, we test across different platforms and across your marketing mix. So we can really take a holistic view of your social media ads, but also your entire marketing campaign at once. So how does it work? We combine these methods, and once we've decided on the number of methods that we want to combine to answer your specific business questions, we're going to go to field, and we are the ones to recruit respondents worldwide, because we work fully online and we can target through our panels exactly the audience that you're looking for. Once we found the audience, we will show them replicas of the feeds, we'll show them the environments, and then we'll do our analysis based off of that. So what can you uncover with these types of studies? Well, everything that you actually need to know about your ad on social media. So first of all, we have visibility. How many people have actually seen your post or your story? Second, we can tell you how long they watched it for. Did they look at it long enough for you to convey your message to them, or did they only look at it for a split second? We can also tell you which elements of the ad grabbed the attention. So basically, second by second, we can tell you this is what they were looking at. Third, we have video retention. So what portion of the video is seen and what are the dropout points? That one, for instance, is very relevant when we're thinking about YouTube, where they can actually have the possibility to click after a couple seconds to skip the ad. We can also tell you the emotional reach. So that means during the entire ad, what's the percentage of people that showed any emotion? And beyond that, we can even also tell you which type of emotion it was, second by second. Number 5, we have the traditional survey KPIs. So typically that would be how well does the ad fit with your brand? Do people actually like it? And in this sense, we can be flexible because you might have some specific questions that you want to ask and we can add them into the survey. Last but not least, we have sales uplift. So if you do opt to have that virtual shopping exercise in there, we can actually tell you how much this ad will impact your sales. Beyond these KPIs for each creative, we also, as I mentioned earlier, often take a more holistic view. And so we will be looking at different platforms. We'll be testing your ads across platforms. And with a lot of clients, we do this not just for one creative, but we will be doing this over the course of a full year, for instance. And that allows us to really develop best practices and guidelines that can be used not just by the brand, but also by creative agencies when they're developing the new creatives. And this example, for instance, shows you a study that we did where we ran 23 different ads in one study. And what we did is we put them on this grid where we're scoring them both on attention and on sales. And then we looked at the patterns and we developed the do's and the don'ts. For instance, we saw that with all the most successful ads, they were all using, or 90% of them were using a font that was bigger than 230. They were using maximum 3 words, etc. And then we did the same thing for the ads that were not scoring well, so they knew what not to do with future creatives. And then let's close off with a couple of case studies. So I'll be showing you a couple of insights that we got from internal studies, and that could be interesting for any of the ads that you're currently developing or that you're planning on launching on social media. So this one comes from a really big social media study we ran on Instagram. We conducted that on mobile phone with over 1,800 respondents. And we uncovered a couple of really interesting things. So first of all, we uncovered that Instagram users, they prefer full body shots. And they also really like celebrities and female protagonists. So what we saw is that full body shots, they increase post visibility by 5 up to 10 percentage points. This works for all industries except for beauty, where, as you can imagine, it's a lot more about the close-ups and the face. We also noticed that celebrities increase retention by 7 percentage points, which is great, but they can also be distracting because people are so much focused on the celebrity, the messaging and brand can be a little bit lost just because, the celebrity is there taking all the attention. We also learned that female ad protagonists drive more positive emotions by up to 5 percentage points. And they are usually evaluated as more attractive and transparent. And then finally, text-heavy carousels, they can bring low emotional involvement. On to the next insight. So this one is coming from a study we ran on Twitter, where we learned that showing the brand and the product together increases purchase intent. So you can see the comparison here where we were focusing only on the brand, only on the product, and then the last one where it was brand and product, and that is where most products were actually bought at the end of the day. From that same study, we also learned that putting your logo in the upper left corner boosts brand recall. Again, you can see that here, both the prompted recall and the spontaneous recall was higher when the brand was in the upper left corner. And that is also a bit because people are reading usually that way from left to right. So that's why it makes more sense to put your logo there. Then this insight is coming from a Facebook study where we actually tested 26 different ads across 6 different industries. And what we learned is that ads from the food industry are most likely to be seen. And you can see this here on the grid. So we looked at KPIs like visibility. So how much do they stand out? What's the percentage of people that notice them on the timeline? But also attention. How long do they look at it? Emotional reach. Is there any emotional reaction during the video? And what's the dominant emotion? And you can see that food is performing best here on these KPIs, and that for industries like banking and telco or services, it is harder to stand out, and it's also harder to keep that attention and evoke any emotional connection. And then last but not least, another insight coming from a Facebook study about videos versus GIFs. This might be something you're wondering about. You see a lot more GIFs these days. What is the effect? We learned that GIFs have a better message recall, but they may be boring or irritating, whereas videos actually have a better impact on brand perception. They're more persuasive, and they also allow you to better differentiate your brand. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions about in-context social media testing, feel free to reach out. We'd be very happy to help.